A very good evening to one and all, and a warm welcome to the In-Service Skills Enhancement Program presented by VIDYADAAN Foundation. I'm Shweta Batra, and I'm here to take you through this session. To begin with, I would like to introduce to you the organization if the people who are around in the audience are not aware of. VIDYADAAN Foundation is a transformative non-profit organization. It is dedicated to empowering underprivileged children, youth, and women through power of education. With an unwavering commitment to fostering a bright future, VIDYADAAN Foundation is at the forefront in providing high-quality education in India, thereby enabling disadvantaged children to unlock their potential. To enhance the quality of education, it also conducts the teacher training programs. In the past, under the In-Service Skills Enhancement Program, what we call it as ISEP, we take pride when we say that we have successfully trained over 6,000 teachers and now we are counting. We all know the National Education Policy emphasizes on continuous professional development of educators. Each teacher is expected to participate in at least 50 hours of CPD opportunities. Now, we have resumed in the In-Service Skill Enhancement Program, popularly called as ISEP, and it's going to be an ongoing one. We shall have a session every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. and our speakers will be eminent educators who will share their expertise on various relevant and pressing topics for us as educators. Point to be noted is that educators who successfully attend the program will be receiving a valid e-certificate, which states that you have completed 1 hour of training. I will briefly inform you the process of the certificate part. After the presentation of the speaker, we will be sharing a questionnaire that will be based on today's content. The person who scores 7 and above is eligible for a e-certificate. Please note, the Google form has to be filled in before we leave the meeting. In case you want the e-certificate, you will have to pay a small fee of ₹100 and you will receive your e-certificate via WhatsApp within 7 working days. Here, I would like to make a note that in the previous 2 sessions that we have had, there have been a few instances where the transaction ID hasn't been put it properly. So I request you to make sure you put in your correct name, your correct WhatsApp number, your correct transaction ID, so that we are seamlessly able to reach you the e-certificates. There are a few instances. I request those people, if they are in the audience today, to kindly get back. We have probably sent you a mail on the same. You could have received a mail, or in case you have not yet received your e-certificate after paying ₹100, please make sure you get onto the mail and put in your transaction details and make things clear so that we are able to reach out to you. Coming back to the session, I would like to introduce you to the speaker. Our expert today is Dr. Indira, VMD. Mrs. Indira is a former agricultural scientist turned educationist. In her school days, she used to learn math by dancing. She began her foray in education, teaching dance to children with specific needs. Gradually, she successfully experimented with other forms of art. She is passionately involved in art-integrated pedagogy and is continuously exploring innovative ways of creating joyful and engaging classrooms. Currently, she is working as a senior associate with Center in assessment team. It is indeed a pleasure, madam, to have you on board. Madam is going to share with us deep insights into the nitty-gritties of preparing an effective question paper. With the changing pattern in assessment, it is a topic that bears prime importance to us that I guess you all will agree. Dear viewers, in case you have some very important questions related to the topic, you can put it in the chat and we shall try to address them if time permits. I request you, madam, to kindly begin with your session, which we are all so eagerly waiting for. Over to you, madam.
Thank you so much, Shweta ma'am. That was a lovely introduction. And good evening to all my dear teachers, fellow teachers. And one small, I would say, anticipatory bail, or I would rather like to say, I beg your pardon in advance, because as in when I speak to you, I have also kept the live streaming on my mobile on, so that I can see all the comments from the viewers. And Shweta ma'am, can you please mute yourself?
It's on mute.
Thank you so much. Okay, sorry for the small glitch. I've kept my live streaming on so that I can see the comments from each and every one of you, because we have some activities also in this session. It's not going to be all talk. My mother says I'm very boring if I talk too much. Okay, so with that, over to today's session, which is creating effective question paper. I assume my video is visible to all of you. Please give me a moment. I'll just turn on the pen. Okay. Now, largely, this is the agenda of the session. That is, we are going to look at what are the steps involved in developing a question paper. What are the factors involved, or what are the factors influencing the alignment of the assessments? Moving on, we will be looking at 7 different factors that help us write or create a good question paper, followed by one activity, then understanding the objective, scope, and purpose of an assessment. Thought stimulation. Why is thought stimulation important in an assessment? What are the different types of questions seen in a typical question paper, followed by yet another activity? Followed by that, we will be addressing a few questions, relevant questions. Now, again, creating an effective question paper or assessment in itself is a deep subject. Just 1 hour of talk is not going to do all the justice. It is a very vast, deep subject. But whatever we can from the surface level of it, whatever is needed, I have just collated the same points here for all of us. Okay. All right. So now we go to the next part, which is we first begin with a small activity, that is formative versus summative assessment. Now, formative assessment, as you can see here on the screen, it monitors student learning, whereas summative assessment evaluate student learning, right? Now, I would like you all to know, I would like you all to tell me, not to know, I'm sorry. I would like you all to give me one example of formative assessment that you conduct in your class. One example of formative assessment that you conduct in your class. And your time starts now. You have 1 minute. Please type your answers in the YouTube comment section so that I can take a look at it. And I am looking at it. Yes, good evening, Santosh Patel sir. Good evening, Hemalata ma'am. Good evening, Shobhini ma'am. Good evening to all of you who are watching us live. I repeat my question. Please give me an example of formative assessment that you conduct in your classrooms. So I'm waiting. And you still have 30 seconds. Class test. Okay. Radhika ma'am writes AU. I don't know what is AU, ma'am. Please expand it. Anurag sir writes raising a question. Bindu ma'am says worksheets. All right. Sumangala ma'am says quizzes. Wonderful. So generally class test or asking a question in the class, like what Anurag sir mentioned, raising a question, right? Then Tara ma'am says, okay, sorry, Tara ma'am was introducing herself. Shilpi ma'am also says activities. Sharda ma'am says MCQs. Yes, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for the wonderful replies. So, formative assessment is you teach a concept and then you ask questions related to the concept. Those questions can be in the LOTS, MOTS, or HOTS category, right? That is typically class test, assignments, or the chotu project work that we give in the class. Those things are formative assessments. When it comes to summative assessment, it is to evaluate student learning. What is it that the student has learned throughout? Okay. The difference between the two is when you monitor student learning, you're constantly looking at, has the student developed any misconception, right? Has the student understood the concept properly, or is he or she getting confused with some other concepts? Correct. When it comes to evaluating the student learning, it is the knowledge that the student has gained, the skills that the student has instilled in herself or himself. That is the difference between formative and summative assessments. Yes, Sumangala ma'am, as you say correctly, FA is a continuous process. You keep taking a formative assessment every day. For example, the Socratic method of questioning. It is a form of formative assessment. So in Socratic method, what happens is you question the children. You do not teach the concept. We as teachers do not spoon feed the entire concept. Okay. For example, if I am, okay, I know some of you might have seen me before, and some of you are seeing me for the first time. So for those who have met me before, it might be a repetition. Please bear with me. For example, if I am teaching the concept on structure of atom, okay, so I won't directly go to the class and tell my students that an atom is the smallest particle of matter. 2 atoms, 3 atoms, 4 atoms, like that, many atoms come together to form matter, whatever be the matter, even a speck of dust. I will not go ahead and say that. In Socratic method, we question the children. For example, yeah, I take this pen. Then I'll say, can you see this pen? Students will say, yes. What do you think it is made of? Obviously, they will say plastic. Then I say, now if I cut this pen, what will happen? Like, pen will be broken. You won't be able to use it. I'll say, okay, fine. Now I cut this pen into many pieces. What is going to happen? That is when students start thinking. They form the basics. They go back to their foundations and they try to think what has happened. Then from there, we come upon and build upon the concept and introduce the concept of atoms. In fact, that Socratic method of questioning is also a form of formative assessment. It can also be called as a diagnostic test because we are helping the children reinforce or revise the previous concepts and then build upon the same concept, right? Build upon something new, not the same, but build upon something new. So that is about formative and summative assessments. Now we move forward, and this is one very important question. I would like all of you to please type in your chat box. What are the different steps involved in creating a question paper? I repeat, what are the different steps involved in creating a question paper? My humble apologies if you think that I'm not keeping your eye contact and I keep looking sideways. It's only because I just want to take a glance through the comment and address questions, if any. Okay. So I repeat my question. What are the different processes involved in in developing a question paper? Please type your answers in the chat box. Getting a variety of questions. Yes, Rehana ma'am. What else? Have a blueprint. Oh, yes, Shaila ma'am. Have a blueprint of the question paper. And my God, that was such a nightmare. Okay. A blueprint. Yes, Sumangala ma'am, blueprint. What else? We need to have a variety of questions. We need to have a blueprint of the question paper created. Then, फिर क्या है? और कुछ नहीं है. Isn't there anything else? Everybody is saying blueprint. Ayyo, Rama. Okay, so here I reveal the answers. The first step is you determine the need for the test. Why am I even taking a test? What is the purpose? Correct? Then stay updated with the latest syllabus and decide on the layout of the question paper. So first we need to know why is it that we are taking a test or an assessment. Okay. After that, we ensure that the syllabus is updated. We do not have any kind of outdated information. And outdated information has come in some of the question papers. I'll give you some examples also as we go in the seminar, okay, as we move forward. Then is deciding the layout, choosing the type of questions, then using validated references. This is especially, the step 5 is especially for HOTS questions. That is higher order thinking skills. Okay. Then some people in today's world, there are quite a few people who rely on the AI generation platforms, AI paper generation platforms. Otherwise, rely on question generation platform, which is our brain, right? We use the previous papers as references and we think of new questions, everything. After that, create the questions and edit, finalize the exam paper, set the marks and the duration, develop an assessment framework, proofread, and finally conduct. Now, when you proofread, that is review and proofread go hand in hand. We develop the paper, we develop a blueprint, we develop everything, and then we send the paper along with the blueprint to the school leader for approval. Then there is a lot of back and forth that keeps happening, right? And then after that, finally, our paper is approved. It is 100% error-free or at least 99% error-free. And last but not the least, we conduct the exam. So these are the different processes that are involved in developing a question paper. We move forward and we look at what are the different factors that ensure that the assessments are aligned with our objectives. Now, this is something very, very important, but unfortunately, it is overlooked by many of the educators, be it teachers, be it school leaders, anybody. It is unfortunately overlooked by many people. That maybe because of the deadlines that people come across, the heavy deadlines that they're facing, or maybe because many people just don't find it important. But this alignment is very, very important when it comes to setting up paper. Now, teaching and learning activities, all of us agree that the teaching must be in alignment with the learning goals and learning objectives. With the teaching objective, I would not use the word outcome, but teaching objective, right? So for now, what is the difference between objective and outcome? My objective is to prepare sambar. Okay, my objective in the morning at home is to prepare sambar. But by the time I finished preparing, the sambar became dal. It just got stuck there. That is my outcome. The objective was to prepare sambar, but the final outcome after all the process I did became dal. That is the outcome. So outcomes can never be guaranteed. Okay. Objectives are set. Objectives are guaranteed and they are in alignment. Outcomes cannot be guaranteed. So our teaching and learning activities or our entire pedagogical method is in alignment with the learning goals and objectives. Similarly, the learning goals and objectives must also be in alignment with the pedagogy that we follow, right? Then, with every objective, there is always a feedback and assessment process. We just saw. We conduct formative assessment every day in the class, correct? But along with that, there is also something called as a feedback. Okay. Now, for example, I teach structure of atom. Okay. And then the first day I introduce what is an atom and why it is necessary and how it helps build matter. Then at the end of the class, when I ask children what is an atom, many of them say, teacher, atom is the smallest particle. It does not have anything. Many atoms come together and form different types of matter. Okay. Here, what has happened? I repeat the answer. Teacher, many atoms come together and form matter. Before that, what did my students say? Atom does not have anything. The moment I hear that, I realize, oh, there is a misconception in the child. Then I asked the question in the entire class. Okay, students, listen. She said atom does not have anything, but many atoms come together and build up matter. Is it correct? And all students agree. That is an insight I got from this particular assessment. And that insight serves as my feedback. That the students, all the students in the class have a misconception. What is a misconception? That atom is the smallest matter and it does not have anything, which is wrong. An atom contains subatomic particles, protons, neutrons, and electrons. Okay. But children are thinking that no, atom does not have anything, but many atoms come together to make up matter. So this insight is serving as a feedback for me. So then, with this feedback in mind, I go back and I retweak my pedagogy. And again, I form new learning goals and objectives such that the misconception is remediated. So these things are a two-way arrow. And this ensures that my assessments, my pedagogy, everything is in alignment, and that if there are any misconceptions, they are remediated gradually in tandem with each and every class. All right. So now we move forward and we go to the next part, which is what makes a good question paper. These are some of the things that make or ensure a good question paper. What are they? The first point is clarity, understandability. Then is scope and objectivity. That is also purpose and intent. Then moving on, we have relevance, thought stimulation, and limiting the focus. Scope, objectivity, and purpose. All these three can be treated in tandem with each other. Similarly, clarity and understandability. These also can be treated in tandem with each other. Okay. Now, let us move forward and we can discuss. I won't be discussing all the points one by one, but some of the points I will be discussing. Okay. We'll first go to clarity and understandability. All right. Now, according to Gronlund he was a very famous education researcher specialized in assessment patterns. Okay. So in one of his papers in 1998, he said, nothing in the content of a test item must prevent an informed student from responding correctly. Nothing within a test item, that is a question paper, must prevent an informed student from responding correctly. That is, in other words, a paper should be very, very clear. The questions asked, it should be very clear. There should be no scope for ambiguity at all in the paper. Okay. Now, I am not going to do more badbad on this. What we will do is some bit of gadbad. So here are two questions. Okay. I would like all of you to read these two questions. Question number 1 and question number 2. And then reply in the chat box which of these two questions is more correct and clear. So my question number 1 is this. Suma plucked 10 mangoes from the tree in her garden. She gave 2 to her brother, 3 to her sister, 4 to her neighbor, and 3 to her grandmother. Calculate the total number of mangoes that Suma is left with. That is first question. Second question. Mickey Rabbit saw 8 carrots near his burrow. He gave half of them to his sister. He made carrot soup with half of the number of carrots he had. The rest he kept in the shelf for eating the next day. What is the number of carrots that Mickey saved for the next day? Which of these two questions is very, very clear and has no errors? Okay, Rehana ma'am says the first question is very clear. All right. Let's wait for other responses as well. Shilpi ma'am says second question is clear. Okay. So now we have 50-50. One is said first, one is said second. Okay, Sindhu ma'am says first is clear. Beena ma'am says second. Usha ma'am, Shaila ma'am. Everybody says second question is clear. Good. Bingo. Second question is more clear. Because question 1 itself is wrong. Okay. Suma plucked 10 mangoes. Okay. So I'm writing it 10 over here. She gave 2 to her brother. So -2, which is she's having 8 mangoes. Then she gave 3 to her sister. So 8 minus 3, which is 5. After that, she gave 4 to her neighbor. So that means she's actually left with 1. How can she give 3 to her grandmother? Correct? In second question, it is 8 carrots near his burrow. He gave half of them to his sister. So half of 8 is what? 4. So he gave 4 to his sister. Now, he gave 4. That means he has another 4 with him. So with the half the number of remaining carrots he had, he made carrot soup. So that is, he had 4 carrots, uska half, which is 2. So with 2 carrots, he made carrot soup. So what is the number of carrots that Mickey saved for the next day? Which is again 2. The second question is more clear, whereas the first question is ambiguous. It is incorrect. And imagine if we introduce this to a 4th standard or a 3rd standard child. Or forget 3rd standard. At least 3rd standard child might say that, ma'am, this question is wrong. But for a 1st or 2nd standard child, she or he will sit and scratch his or her head. Right? And then finally, there is some gadbad in this. The student will go and approach the class teacher, and then the class teacher has to rectify. Right? But ideally, that should not happen in a good question paper. So now, what is the moral of the story? A clear question paper must have simple vocabulary, not be unnecessarily verbose, must not contain distracting details, and a few more points I forgot to add. It must be correct logically correct, and stick to the concept. These are some of the necessities of a good, clear question paper. Now let us take a look at the first question that we had. Okay, I'm sorry, just give me a moment. I'll just erase this. Yeah. Now let us take a look at the first question. Now this was the first question. Suma plucked 10 mangoes from the tree in her garden. She gave 2 to her brother, 3 to her sister, 4 to her neighbor, 3 to her grandmother. Now, in this entire question, I would like all of you to respond in the comment box, telling me which of these sentences or phrases or words you think are unnecessary. Which of the phrases in this question you think are unnecessary? Please respond in the comment section. I'm taking a look at that. You have 1 minute, huh? Ayorama, I'm not getting any answer. Is left with her. Okay, that, yes, her is not come. That is true. No, but the sentence is calculate the total number of mangoes that Suma is left with. So the sentence is correct. Yes, Sumangla ma'am, plucked from the tree in her garden. That is completely unnecessary. Then, yes, total number. You don't have a total number. You don't need that phrase, total number. So, here, there are 2 main phrases that need trimming. One is from the tree in her garden. This phrase is not necessary. Kahan se pluck kiya? From where did Suma pluck? That is not going to affect the calculation in any way, unless you want to add an interest in the story. It is just a cosmetic beauty, which also is making the sentence longish and repetitive. Okay. Then the next one, which was unnecessary or rather which needs correction, is 3 to her grandmother. Either we can do away with this entire phrase, or in lieu of 3, you can put it as 1. Suma gave 1 to her grandmother. Then calculate the number of mangoes that Suma is left with. It will be 0, right? That way, we make this question much more clear and concise. All right. Okay, fine. So now we move forward. Unfortunately, I cannot just pause and ask, okay, are you all clear with this? Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? Unfortunately, I cannot do that because we all are on YouTube. In case you have a doubt or you would like to differ, you have a difference of opinion, please do not hesitate to put it in the chat box so that we all can see that, go through it once again and address your queries. Okay. All right. Now, moving forward, the objectivity, scope, and purpose of the assessment. This is very important because quite often we miss what is the objective of the assessment. Why is it that we are planning to take an assessment? Is there something important? Are we trying to test the student's knowledge? Are we trying to just bring up a beautiful report card? What is it? That is the first thing. Then, second, all the questions in our question paper must not contain any personal bias. Personal bias, that is with reference to gender, with reference to culture, right? Or contain any kind of racist comments or anything. It should not contain any form of personal bias. Also, it should not reveal any kind of political affiliations, if any. Yes, there are times when unintentionally we do put a few words in the question paper that ultimately blows up and says, oh my God, this is a gender bias. Or, why are you putting such regional comments? Why are you commenting on people's religion? Right? It is unintentional, but that is something which we have to take care. And that is one reason why, after setting a question paper, we do something called as a peer review. Okay. We ask our peers, that is, any of our colleagues, a colleague from a different subject. Okay. So this is something I always advise all my teachers, saying that you have set a question paper. If it is a science question paper, please give it to your social studies teacher. Because only then it is easier to catch the mistakes. If it's a social studies paper, please go and give it to your maths teacher. Mistakes can be seen very quickly. Also, if there are 2-3 questions having the same answer, that also can be caught. A social studies paper being reviewed by a social studies teacher, yes, with respect to content and concept, it is okay. But with respect to correctness, or rather we say correctness only. There is another term which I'm not able to recollect right now. With respect to correctness, or with respect to the errors, only a completely different subject teacher can catch hold of that. Okay. Also with respect to bias, only a completely different subject teacher has to catch hold of that. The same subject teacher may not be able to do it. It's not necessary. Especially if all the subject teachers put their heads together in forming the question paper. Then definitely they will not be able to identify the mistakes. Okay. So that is why peer review from a different subject is very, very important. And last but not the least, how much should a student answer? I have had students writing 7 to 8 long sentence answers for one simple question, which is describe the structure of an atom. So this particular student, she began from how an atom was discovered, right from Democritus, Rutherford, ye, wo. And then she moved on to finally how a structure of atom was devised, which we accept today. इतना नहीं पूछा था. It was a simple 2-mark answer for which she wrote a long answer, 7 or 8 lines. And then I said, you wrote so much, factually correct answer, but it is of no use. You simply wasted time. You as a student, you wasted time, right? Oh yes, that is the term I was looking for in the previous point also about personal bias. Peer review for every paper should be done to ensure that the questions are factually correct and free of any kind of bias. Okay, all right. So that is the objective and scope of a paper. Whereas when it comes to purpose, one thing all of us as teachers should be very clear about is, what is the use of me setting such a big paper? What am I testing? Am I testing memory skills? Am I testing the rote learning skills? Am I testing the actual knowledge and application skills? Or am I simply trying to see whether my child can work independently or not? Okay. So these are the purposes of an assessment. The purpose of an assessment, I correct myself, the purpose of an assessment should be very, very clear in our head. Quite often I have seen teachers giving a lot of rote learning based questions. Define this, define that, give 2 examples of that, give 2 examples of non-metals, give 2 examples of transition elements. For an entire 25-mark paper, teachers have simply put define periodic table and give 2 examples of metals, give 2 examples of non-metals. Even in long answer questions, give the formula for. And long answer question, typically it's of 4 mark or something. The teachers have given 8 different elements. They've given the names of 8 different elements. Okay, and said, state the symbol for da 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 da. I said, what is this? Are you testing the memory of a child? No, it should be the skills, all the other related skills. If you're following Bloom's level, it should be knowledge, understanding, application, and then analysis, evaluation, and creation. The concept should be tested for all these levels of Bloom's. If it is DOK, that is depth of knowledge, then it's a completely different take. There also, there is a similar pattern that is followed, right? So be very sure on your purpose of assignment, purpose of assessment. Otherwise, our entire efforts in making a beautiful question paper is just wasted. I'll give you a very interesting story. Now, I won't take more than 2 minutes for that story. Okay. This was way back in 2020, during the COVID time. I was working as a social studies teacher in one of the prominent schools in in Bangalore. Okay. And please don't ask me why social studies, despite of me having a chemistry background. It's only because that was a vacancy available and beggars can't be choosers. So for the first time, for that PA1, I had to set up a question paper for grade 7. which is the class I was teaching social studies. And I thought I have set a very beautiful question paper. But ultimately, after the question paper was set up, I realized everything is either asking for chronological order, or I'm asking for names of different kings, or I'm asking about the names of different cities. That is when I realized the purpose of my assessment was not defined for myself. And so, of course, I had to change the entire assessment, which was okay. But yes, that was a learning curve for me. And then similarly, another teacher repeated in one of the schools I was working in later. And on periodic table, and she gave a lot of questions, which was simply testing the memory of the child, and not memory, or rather the recollection. Remember and recollect, the first level of Bloom's level. It only got stuck at that particular point. Okay, so define the purpose of an assessment. Moving on. Also, we need to reinforce the thought skilling or the thought stimulation process. Okay. The questions should be such that they are, yes, as Anurag sir says, skill-based questions. The questions should be such that we fire the thought process in the child. We should be, for that, we should be clear that there are no assumptions. There is no scope for more than one right answer. I will show you a few examples of questions wherein there can be a scope for more than one right answer. There are alternatives that are considered, and the response that the child gives to a particular question is concise and free of any kind of bias. For example, scope for more than one right answer, that is, I'll give you one example, which is, okay, Dash is a planet containing oxygen. Dash is a planet containing oxygen. Here, there can be more than one correct answer, because not only Earth, okay, Jupiter, Mars also contain, Jupiter, or if I'm not wrong, it is Venus, also contains oxygen. Although in Mars, the quantity of oxygen is very low, it's only 0.13% or something. Apart from Earth, there are other planets containing oxygen. Okay. So, if a child, most of the children would write Earth is a planet containing oxygen. But there can be children writing Mars contains oxygen. We cannot give that answer as wrong. It is a correct answer. So there is a scope for more than one answer in that. Had this question be, Dash is a planet containing water and oxygen, water, life, and oxygen, then the correct answer would be the Earth. Okay. So when we are creating questions, these are unintentional mistakes, or rather, I would say oversights that come in along with the flow. Okay. But during the process of review, we must ensure that all these oversight, everything is taken care of. Okay. So now moving forward, what are the different types of questions that can be there in a question paper? What are the different types of questions that can be asked in a question paper? I'm waiting for your answers very, very eagerly. Yes, Mini ma'am. Student skill has to be, it's not only the knowledge that he or she has gained. Yes, what are the different types of question paper? Sorry, what are the different types of questions in a question paper? Am I audible? MCQ. Everybody is saying MCQ. Arre baba. Okay. Passage-based questions, fill in the blanks. Yes, Usha ma'am. Rajeshwari ma'am, very correct. Passage-based questions. So that is MCQ, short answers, long answers, assertion reasoning, case-based questions. All these are different types of questions. Now, each of them have a particular significance in Bloom's level. For example, multiple choice is for knowledge and understanding. If we look at Bloom's level, okay, knowledge and understanding. Short answer questions check for the understanding as well as application. As far as possible, let knowledge be restricted to multiple choice questions. Let us not bring it down to the short answer questions. Okay. Then long answer questions is again application and analysis. All you give reasons, justify. These are all application and analysis. Assertion reasoning is more of an analysis-based question, right? Analysis and evaluation. In long answers, another category that comes in is creation. Okay, but that is the highest level in thoughts. Whereas a case-based question typically test for understanding, then analysis, evaluation. All right. So these are the different types of questions in a question paper that test for all the different levels across the Bloom's taxonomic level. Okay. Now, I'm not saying in MCQ you cannot put evaluation or creation. Yes, of course, we can very much do it. But the scope is slightly limited. Most commonly, this is what is followed. Most commonly. This is not a what you call it as, this is not a stamp. Okay. But this is a pattern that is commonly followed. Okay. Now, we move on and let us take a look at the rules for making a question paper. We saw so many different collated points all here and there scattered, right? So let us frame some of the rules for making an effective question paper. Here, the rule number 1, have a concise language, right? We saw what happens when there are too many things that get introduced into the question. Then ultimately in the flow, we also forget all the calculation and the entire question goes for a toss. So have a concise language. The question must be very, very specific. Like we saw in the previous question, or rather the example, right? Dash is a planet containing oxygen. Since the question was not very, very specific, the answer also had a wider scope. Another is updated and relevant content. When I was in school, I learned that there are 9 planets in the solar system. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto. But now, Pluto is not always considered as a planet, right? So, the statement 9 planets in the solar system is redundant. वो zamana chala gaya. There's a generation gap now, right? So that's why we should put in updated and relevant content. Once upon a time, this was when I was in school, okay. I was asked to write an essay on the person you admire the most. And I was in 8th standard, very small. And for some reason, right from my childhood, like very small, when I was in KG of 1st standard, in those days, the only channel we had on TV was Doordarshan. And the only program we all used to watch was the news, right? So I always used to see a lot of ministers, politicians, everyone. And there were very few very popular politicians. For some reason, I had a liking for Mr. P. Chidambaram. Okay. So even when I grew big, we shifted, we transitioned to so many different places. So what happened is, we were asked to write an essay on the person I admire the most. And because I still admired, I still had a liking for Mr. P. Chidambaram, I would follow each and every news of his, okay, and listen to all his speeches, everything. So I wrote about Mr. P. Chidambaram. And unfortunately, he was not the finance minister at that time. When I was writing the essay, at that time, he was not the finance minister. By then, he had become the former finance minister. So I wrote, the person I admire the most is our present finance minister, Mr. P. Chidambaram. Okay. And I wrote a lot of different qualities, and I also wrote which of his speech I liked the most and what were the lines and everything. Then later, my English sir, I still remember Thomas Verghese sir in Bombay Cambridge, Andheri East in Mumbai. He also happened to be our social studies teacher. So he came to me and said, your essay was really good. You wrote about somebody completely different. And I admire your general knowledge. But unfortunately, you failed to notice that Mr. P. Chidambaram is no longer the finance minister. The government has changed. And I said, Ayo, Rama, I forgot. So we need to have updated, relevant content. Okay. Another is no debatable answers. For no debatable answers, okay, yes, I know I still have 5 more minutes. I won't take more, I promise. There was this one question that was set in one of my papers saying that dash is an element that never reacts. I repeat, dash is an element that never reacts. Okay, pardon me because I'm using short form. And the options were calcium, magnesium, then neon, and sorry, it was not neon, it was xenon. Yes, I had used xenon and I think aluminium or something like that. Dash was an element that never reacts. Option A, calcium, then magnesium, xenon, and aluminium. My intended correct answer was xenon. Okay. But okay, this was not aluminium, correct. It was none of the above. By the way, none of the above is a very bad option to give, okay? It was none of the above. My intended answer was xenon. But the answer could have been none of the above also. Because although xenon is a noble gas and inert gas, xenon reacts to form XeF6. Okay. So that became a debate. So there was a debatable answer. It could have been xenon also. It could have been none of the above also. That is an example of debatable answer. Kindly avoid debatable answers, especially in case of MCQs. Okay. And every question must have a unique answer. Yes, Rajeshwari ma'am, as you said, the questions must not be repeated, nor the questions should be such that by default, somehow the answer is the same. There is an example for such a question. So we go to the next slide. And here is a small sample paper of a formative assessment. Okay. So it has two different kinds of questions, that is fill in the blanks and answer in single sentence. If you look at it, first question, dash in the solar system rotates and revolves around the sun. Then dash is called as a blue planet. Then the Earth is also called as a blue planet. I would like you all to focus first on these three. The first three fill in the blanks. And please let me know what you think. So I give you 1 minute for that. Pragya ma'am says all the planets. Okay. Yes, Rajeshwari ma'am. Question 2 and 3 are repeated. Mini ma'am says it should be updated. Basically, the intended answer over here was Earth. Okay. But some of them wrote planets. Some of them wrote names of different planets. Okay. And here, Earth is called as a blue planet. Immediately, the next question after this is Earth is also called as what? Blue planet. Right? That itself became a debate. So these kind of things, it cannot be accepted. Next is, what is special about Earth? Okay. Now, can we answer this in a single sentence? Quite debatable. Because there are so many special things. And there can be no one single correct answer to this. Right? Similarly, name the only planet that contains oxygen. Again, this was an example I showed you previously. And last question, life exists only on Earth. Justify. We can answer this in single sentence, but most of them would prefer to answer in long sentence, and justify can never be a single sentence answer. You can either put it as a multiple choice. Which of the following options best explain the reason why life exists only on Earth? Then option A, B, C, and D. Or you need to have a brief answer. At least 2 to 3 lines of answer. Right? Okay. So with that, I thank each and every one of you for being such an active, lively participant. And I throw the floor open for questions. If there are any questions, please feel free, while I also take a look at some of the previous comments and address questions if any. Mm. I'm staring at the screen and looking at the comments while at the same time trying to address you all. So it becomes a little funny. Sometimes I feel I'm a graphic designer having 2, 3 screens and trying to make a big drawing. Okay, so I assume there are no questions. Thank you everyone for being a lively participant. I really enjoyed this session, taking it on YouTube and addressing on the comments. Shweta ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much, madam, for this